The silvery methane lakes of Titan shimmered under the faint glow of distant Saturn, casting an otherworldly light on the massive dome of Titan Colony. Inside, Chief Engineer Samira Khan stood at the main viewport, her dark eyes scanning the alien landscape beyond. At 42, Khan had the bearing of someone who had seen more than her fair share of challenges. Yet her gaze held an unmistakable spark of wonder. "Even after 5 years, it still takes my breath away," she murmured, more to herself than to anyone else. Behind her, the control room hummed with activity. Screens flickered with data streams, and the low murmur of conversation filled the air as technicians went about their daily routines. This was the nerve center of humanity's most ambitious off-world colony, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of those who dared to dream beyond Earth's boundaries. Khan's reverie was interrupted by a young voice at her elbow. "Chief Khan, I've got those atmospheric density reports you asked for." She turned to see Alex White, the colony's newest apprentice engineer. At just 24, Alex was the youngest member of her team, but what he lacked in experience, he made up for in enthusiasm and raw talent. "Thank you, Alex," Khan said, taking the proffered tablet. She scrolled through the data, her brow furrowing slightly. "These methane levels in Sector 7 seem a bit high. Have you double-checked the sensors?" Alex nodded eagerly. "Yes, ma'am. I ran a full diagnostic this morning. The readings are accurate, but I have a theory about why they're elevated." He paused, seeming unsure whether to continue. Khan raised an eyebrow. "Go on," she encouraged. "Well," Alex began, gaining confidence, "I've been studying the geological surveys from the last expedition. There's evidence of increased cryovolcanic activity in that region. I think we might be seeing the early signs of a methane eruption." Khan's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't considered that possibility. "Interesting theory, Alex. It's definitely worth investigating further. Why don't you work up a proposal for a more detailed survey? We'll need to involve Dr. Muller and her team if you're right about this." Alex beamed at the opportunity. "Right away, Chief. I'll have something on your desk by tomorrow morning." As the young apprentice hurried off, Khan couldn't help but smile. His enthusiasm reminded her of herself at that age, newly arrived on Mars for her first off-world posting. It seemed like a lifetime ago now. Khan's calm unit chirped, pulling her back to the present. "Chief Khan, your presence is requested in Lab 3. Dr. Muller says she's made a breakthrough with the atmospheric filtration system." "Acknowledged," Khan replied. "Tell her I'm on my way." As she made her way through the colony's winding corridors, Khan reflected on the magnitude of what they were accomplishing here on Titan. This wasn't just a scientific outpost. It was humanity's first true step into becoming a multi-planetary species. The challenges were immense, but so were the possibilities. Lab 3 was a hive of activity when Khan arrived. In the center of it all stood Dr. Ingrid Muller, the colony's lead environmental scientist. At 55, Muller was one of the most respected xenobiologists in the solar system, with a reputation for brilliance that was matched only by her eccentricity. "Ah, Samira!" Muller exclaimed, looking up from a complex array of tubes and filters. Her wild gray hair seemed to defy gravity, giving her the appearance of a mad scientist from an old Earth movie. "You must see this." Khan approached cautiously, well aware of Muller's tendency to get carried away with her experiments. "What am I looking at, Ingrid?" Muller's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Only the future of our colony, my dear. I've finally cracked the problem of long-term atmospheric regulation. This system," she gestured grandly at the contraption before them, "can extract oxygen from Titan's methane atmosphere with 300% greater efficiency than our current methods. And that's not all. It also produces a hydrocarbon byproduct that we can use as fuel. 2 birds, 1 stone." Khan's mind raced with the implications. If Muller's invention worked as promised, it could revolutionize their life support systems and dramatically reduce their reliance on supply shipments from Earth. "That's incredible, Ingrid," Khan said, her voice filled with awe. "How soon can we begin testing?" Muller's face fell slightly. Well, there's the rub. I need a few specialized components to build a full-scale prototype. Components we don't currently have on hand. Khan nodded, understanding the scientist's frustration. Resources were always at a premium on Titan. Every gram of material had to be justified and accounted for. "Send me a list of what you need," Khan said. "I'll see what I can do about getting it prioritized on the next supply run." As she left the lab, Khan's mind was already spinning with possibilities. Between Alex's geological findings and Muller's breakthrough, it seemed that Titan colony was on the cusp of some major advancements. But with progress came new challenges, new risks. Khan had learned long ago that in space, complacency was the enemy. No matter how routine things might seem, disaster was always just one mistake away. It was her job to ensure that Titan colony was prepared for whatever the universe might throw at them. Little did she know, their greatest test was just around the corner. Alex White sat hunched over his workstation, fingers flying across the holographic keyboard as he compiled his report on the methane anomalies in Sector 7. The control room was quieter now, the day shift having given way to the more subdued atmosphere of the night crew. He paused for a moment, rubbing his tired eyes. The clock on his display showed it was well past midnight, colony time. But Alex couldn't bring himself to stop. There was something about these readings that nagged at him, a pattern just beyond his grasp. "You're here late." Alex jumped at the voice, turning to see Dr. Muller standing behind him, a steaming mug in her hand. "Dr. Muller, I didn't hear you come in," Alex said, trying to calm his racing heart. Muller chuckled, pulling up a chair beside him. "Focused minds seldom do, my boy. Now, what has you burning the midnight oil?" Alex hesitated for a moment. He respected Dr. Muller immensely, but he was also acutely aware of the gap in their knowledge and experience. What if his theory was completely off base? Sensing his hesitation, Muller's expression softened. "Come now, Alex. There are no bad ideas in science, only untested hypotheses. What's on your mind?" Encouraged by her words, Alex began to explain his findings. As he spoke, laying out the data and his interpretations, he found his confidence growing. Dr. Muller listened intently, occasionally asking a probing question or offering a nod of encouragement. "And that's why I think we might be seeing the early signs of increased cryovolcanic activity," Alex finished, slightly out of breath. Muller was quiet for a long moment, her brow furrowed in thought. Alex felt his stomach tighten. Had he made a fool of himself? Finally, Muller spoke. "Alex, my boy, I think you might be onto something quite significant here." Alex blinked in surprise. "You do?" Muller nodded, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. "Oh yes, your analysis is sound, and if you're right, this could have major implications for our understanding of Titan's geological processes. Not to mention the potential impact on the colony itself." She stood abruptly, her energy seeming to fill the room. "We need to expedite that survey you proposed. I'll speak with Samira first thing in the morning about getting you the resources you need." Alex felt a surge of excitement and pride. "Thank you, Dr. Muller. I won't let you down." Muller smiled warmly. "I know you won't, Alex. Now go get some rest. We've got a big day ahead of us tomorrow." As Alex made his way back to his quarters, his mind was racing with possibilities. He had come to Titan hoping to make a difference, to be part of something greater than himself. Now, it seemed he might have stumbled onto a discovery that could do just that. Little did he know that his findings would soon become crucial to the very survival of Titan colony. The next morning, the colony was abuzz with activity. Word of Alex's theory and Dr. Muller's endorsement had spread quickly, and there was a palpable sense of excitement in the air. Chief Khan had wasted no time in assembling a team for the expanded geological survey. Alex found himself at the center of it all, working alongside seasoned scientists and engineers to plan the expedition. As they gathered in the briefing room, Khan addressed the team. "All right, people, listen up. This survey is now our top priority. If Alex's theory is correct, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Dr. Muller will be overseeing the scientific aspects of the mission, while I'll be handling logistics and safety." She turned to Alex. "White, this is your baby. I want you to work closely with Dr. Muller and the survey team. Your insights will be crucial in interpreting the data we gather. Alex nodded, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. Yes, Chief, I won't let you down. As the meeting broke up and people began to file out, Dr. Muller approached Alex. Exciting times, eh? She said with a grin. Nothing quite like the thrill of scientific discovery. Come on, let's go over the equipment loadout. We'll need to modify some of our sensors to get the kind of deep readings we're after. As they walked, Muller's expression grew more serious. Alex, I want you to understand something. What we're potentially dealing with here, it's not just an interesting scientific phenomenon. If there is indeed increased cryovolcanic activity, it could pose significant risks to the colony. We need to be prepared for all possibilities. Alex nodded solemnly. I understand, Dr. Muller. That's why I brought it to Chief Khan's attention immediately. I know the responsibility we carry here. Muller smiled approvingly. Good lad. Now let's get to work. We've got a moon to study. As the day progressed, the expedition plans took shape. A team of 6 would venture out onto Titan's surface. Alex, Dr. Muller, 2 geologists, and 2 safety officers. They would be using one of the colony's rugged exploration vehicles, specially designed to withstand Titan's extreme conditions. By evening, everything was in place for an early morning departure. As Alex lay in his bunk that night, sleep eluded him. His mind was filled with images of Titan's alien landscape, of hidden forces stirring beneath the icy crust. What would they find out there? And what would it mean for the future of Titan colony? Little did he know, the answers to those questions would come sooner and more dramatically than anyone could have anticipated. The exploration vehicle, affectionately nicknamed Titan Treader by the colonists, lumbered across the icy terrain of Saturn's largest moon. Inside, protected from the harsh, methane-rich atmosphere and frigid temperatures, the survey team worked in focused silence. Alex sat at one of the sensor stations, his eyes darting between multiple screens displaying a wealth of data about the surrounding environment. Despite the bulky environmental suit he wore, a precaution in case of emergency decompression, his fingers moved nimbly over the controls, making minute adjustments to the scanning parameters. How are those methane readings looking, Alex? Dr. Muller's voice crackled over the intercom. Alex studied the numbers scrolling across his screen. Definitely elevated, Dr. Muller. We're seeing concentrations about 15% higher than normal for this region. And there's something else. He trailed off, frowning at a particular readout. Don't keep us in suspense, my boy, Muller prodded. Sorry, Alex said, shaking his head. It's just, I'm detecting some unusual seismic activity. Very low level, but it's there. And it seems to be increasing the closer we get to the target area. Dr. Muller hummed thoughtfully. Interesting. That could support your cryovolcanic theory. Kenji, what are you seeing on the ground-penetrating radar? Kenji Tanaka, one of the geologists on the team, spoke up from his station. I'm getting some strange readings from about 500 meters below the surface. There's a large cavity down there, and it seems to be shifting. A tense silence fell over the cabin. They all understood the implications of what Kenji was describing. It was Sofia Volkov, the other geologist, who finally broke the silence. Are we talking about a potential eruption here? Because if we are, we need to alert the colony immediately. Dr. Muller nodded gravely. You're right, Sofia. Alex, contact Chief Khan. Give her a full update on our findings. Alex swallowed hard, suddenly feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He opened a comm channel to the colony. Titan Treader to Titan Colony Control. Come in, please. After a moment of static, Chief Khan's voice came through. This is Control. Go ahead, Titan Treader. Alex took a deep breath and began to relay their findings. As he spoke, he could almost feel the tension rising in Khan's voice. Understood, White, Khan said when he had finished. Good work, all of you. I'm putting the colony on alert status. I want you to continue your survey, but proceed with extreme caution. At the first sign of increased danger, you are to return to base immediately. Is that clear? Crystal clear, Chief, Dr. Muller responded. We'll keep you updated on any developments." As the communication ended, an uneasy silence fell over the team. They had all known the potential risks when they signed up for this mission, but the reality of the situation was now sinking in. "All right, people," Dr. Muller said, her voice steady and determined. "We have a job to do. Let's get as much data as we can while we're out here. Sophia, Kenji, I want continuous monitoring of those subsurface anomalies. Alex, keep a close eye on those methane levels and seismic readings. Johnson, Martinez," she addressed the two safety officers, "stay alert. If anything feels off, sing out immediately." The team resumed their work with renewed focus. For the next hour, they cautiously approached the area of highest activity, their sensors gathering a wealth of data. Alex was so engrossed in his readings that he almost missed it at first, a subtle vibration running through the vehicle. But as it grew stronger, there was no ignoring it. "Dr. Muller," he called out, his voice tight with alarm. "The seismic activity is spiking. I think we need to—" His words were cut off as a violent tremor shook the Titan treader. Warning alarms blared throughout the cabin. "Everyone, brace for impact," Dr. Muller shouted. The world outside the viewport seemed to ripple and heave. A massive crack appeared in the icy surface ahead of them, widening rapidly into a gaping chasm. Martinez, at the vehicle's controls, fought to turn them away from the growing fissure. But the tremors were too strong, the icy surface too unstable. With a sickening lurch, the Titan treader began to slide towards the abyss. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he clung to his station. Through the viewport, he caught a terrifying glimpse of roiling, dark liquid far below, a vast underground sea of methane, now exposed to Titan's surface for the first time in perhaps millions of years. As they teetered on the edge of the chasm, one thought blazed through Alex's mind. This was no mere geological curiosity. This was a catastrophe in the making, one that threatened not just their team, but the entire Titan colony. The Titan treader gave one final, shuddering lurch, and then they were falling, plunging into the newly born abyss, about to come face to face with the very forces they had set out to study. In that moment, as the darkness of Titan's underground sea rose to meet them, Alex White realized that their mission had become something far more critical than a simple survey. It had become a fight for survival, not just for themselves, but for every soul on Titan colony. The real trial of Titan was about to begin. The Titan treader plunged into the newly formed chasm, its occupants helpless against the pull of Titan's weak gravity. Alex's stomach lurched as they fell, his mind racing with calculations of terminal velocity and impact force. The vehicle's emergency systems kicked in, deploying stabilizers and impact cushions, but would it be enough? With a bone-jarring crash, they hit the surface of the underground methane sea. The Titan treader bobbed violently, its systems blaring warnings about hull integrity and environmental contamination. "Status report," Dr. Muller's voice cut through the chaos. "Is everyone all right?" A chorus of shaky affirmatives followed. Alex ran a quick self-assessment. Apart from what would surely be some impressive bruises, he seemed unharmed. "Vehicle status critical," Martinez reported from the pilot's seat. "We've got multiple hull breaches. The methane is eating through our outer layer faster than the self-sealing mechanisms can cope." Dr. Muller's face was grim behind her helmet visor. "Right, we need to get out of here. Martinez, can you get us back to the surface?" Martinez shook his head. "Negative. Propulsion systems are offline. We're dead in the water. Methane." A tense silence fell over the cabin. They were trapped in a sea of liquid methane, their vehicle failing around them, with no clear way back to the surface. Alex's mind raced. There had to be a solution. He forced himself to think, to apply every bit of knowledge and training he had. "The emergency beacon," he said suddenly. "If we can boost its signal, maybe we can reach the colony." Dr. Muller nodded approvingly. "Good thinking, Alex. But how do we boost the signal through all this liquid methane and ice?" Alex bit his lip, thinking hard. What if we use the methane itself? If we could create a bubble of gaseous methane, it might act as a conduit for the signal. Kenji's eyes widened. That could work. We could use the vehicle's external heaters to vaporize some of the liquid methane around us. Do it, Dr. Muller ordered. Alex, work with Kenji on the beacon. Sophia, help Martinez try to seal those hull breaches. Johnson, keep an eye on our life support systems. We need to buy ourselves as much time as possible. As they worked feverishly to implement their plan, Alex couldn't help but wonder about the larger implications of what they'd discovered. The cryovolcanic activity was far more severe than they'd anticipated. If this underground sea was exposed to Titan's surface, he pushed the thought aside. First, they had to survive. Then they could worry about saving the colony. Back at Titan Colony, alarms blared as sensors detected the massive geological disturbance. Chief Engineer Samira Khan raced to the control room, her mind already formulating response plans. "Report!" she barked as she entered. A junior technician looked up, his face pale. "Ma'am, we've lost contact with the Titan Treader. Last telemetry showed them near the epicenter of a major seismic event. There's a massive fissure opening up about 50 kilometers from the colony." Khan's blood ran cold. She'd known the risks when she approved the expedition, but this was beyond anything they'd prepared for. "Sound general quarters," she ordered. "I want all non-essential personnel in secure shelters. Get me a direct line to Earth Command. And someone find Dr. Chun from Geology. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with." As the colony erupted into organized chaos, Khan stared at the sensor readings, willing them to change. Somewhere out there, her team was in danger. And if they couldn't contain this geological nightmare, the entire colony might be at risk. "Hold on," she murmured. "We're coming for you." In the depths of Titan's newly revealed underground sea, the crew of the Titan Treader worked desperately to boost their emergency beacon. Alex and Kenji had managed to create a sizable bubble of gaseous methane around the vehicle, but the caustic liquid was still eating away at their hull. "Beacon activated," Alex announced, his voice tense. "Now we just have to hope someone's listening." Dr. Muller nodded grimly. "Good work, everyone. Now we need to think about our next move. This vehicle won't last forever down here." Sophia spoke up from where she was monitoring the external cameras. "Doctor, you need to see this." They all crowded around her screen. In the murky methane sea, illuminated by the Treader's external lights, massive shapes were moving. They were unlike anything any of them had ever seen before, part plant, part animal, adapted to life in this hidden ecosystem. "My God," Dr. Muller breathed. "We've discovered a whole new biosphere. The scientific implications are staggering." "That's assuming we live to report it," Martinez muttered. As if in response to his words, the vehicle groaned ominously. A new warning light flickered on the control panel. "Hull integrity at 15%, the computer announced dispassionately. "Estimated time to critical failure, 30 minutes. The team shared a grim look. Their time was running out. Back at the colony, Khan and her team worked feverishly to mount a rescue operation. Dr. Chen's analysis had confirmed their worst fears. The cryovolcanic activity was accelerating, threatening to reshape Titan's entire surface. "We've got a signal," a communications officer shouted. "It's faint, but it's definitely from the Treader." Khan leaned over the console, hope surging through her. "Can we get a fix on their location?" The officer nodded. "Affirmative. They're about 500 meters below the surface of the new fissure." Khan's mind raced. Their standard rescue vehicles weren't equipped for that kind of depth or the caustic methane environment. They needed something else. Something. Her eyes fell on a schematic on a nearby screen, the prototype for Dr. Muller's new atmospheric regulator. "Get me Dr. Muller's research team," she ordered. "I think I have an idea." What followed was a frenzy of activity as Khan outlined her plan. They would modify one of their deep drilling rigs with Muller's experimental technology, creating a vessel capable of withstanding the methane sea and extracting the Treader team. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot they had. As the makeshift rescue vessel drilled its way down through Titan's icy crust, the crew of the Titan Treader faced their darkest hour. The hull integrity was down to 5%, and the caustic methane was beginning to seep in through microscopic cracks. Alex worked tirelessly, rerouting power and sealing breaches as fast as he could find them. But it was a losing battle, and they all knew it. Just as hope seemed lost, a sound reached them, a rhythmic thumping that grew louder by the second. "Something's coming," Sophia announced, her voice a mixture of fear and hope. They all held their breath as a shape emerged from the murky methane sea. It was like nothing they'd ever seen before, a hybrid of drilling rig and submarine, bristling with unfamiliar technology. "This is Titan Rescue 1 to Titan Treader," a familiar voice crackled over their comms. "Chief Khan here. Looks like you could use a lift." The relief in the Treader was palpable. As the rescue vehicle locked on and began the complex process of extracting them, Alex couldn't help but marvel at the ingenuity of his colleagues back at the colony. They'd done the impossible, adapting technology on the fly to save their lives. But their ordeal wasn't over yet. As they began their ascent, the sea of methane around them started to churn violently. "The cryovolcanic activity is increasing," Dr. Muller announced, studying the sensor readings. "If we don't seal this fissure, the entire region could destabilize." The colony. She didn't need to finish the thought. They all understood the stakes. As they neared the surface, Chief Khan outlined her plan. Using a combination of Dr. Muller's atmospheric regulators and the colony's terraforming equipment, they would attempt to flash freeze the exposed methane, sealing the fissure and preventing further eruptions. It was a dangerous, untested procedure. If it failed, it could potentially accelerate the very catastrophe they were trying to prevent. "We'll need to precisely calculate the freezing rate," Dr. Muller mused. "Too fast, and we could create more fissures from the rapid contraction. Too slow, and we won't seal it in time." Alex spoke up, an idea forming. "What if we use the methane itself? If we can create a controlled burn at the surface, we could generate enough heat to vaporize some of the liquid methane. Then, when we cut off the burn, the rapid cooling would create a solid methane cap." Dr. Muller finished, her eyes shining. "Alex, that's brilliant," Khan nodded approvingly. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. Let's do it." What followed was the most intricate, dangerous operation in Titan Colony's history. As the rescue vehicle breached the surface, teams sprang into action. Atmospheric regulators were deployed around the fissure's perimeter, while the colony's terraforming engines were repurposed to control the methane burn. Alex found himself at the heart of the operation, coordinating the burn rate and monitoring the freezing process. Every calculation had to be perfect. The slightest error could spell disaster. As the flames roared across the methane sea, turning night to day, the colonists watched with bated breath. Would their gambit pay off, or had they just accelerated their doom? For 3 tense hours, the operation continued. The flames climbed higher, then gradually receded as the atmospheric regulators did their work. Finally, with a sound like 1,000 windows shattering, the surface of the methane sea began to freeze. "It's working," Alex shouted, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "The fissure is sealing." A cheer went up from the assembled colonists. As the last flames flickered out, a new Titan was revealed, one with a solid methane plain where once there had been a gaping wound in the moon's surface. In the days that followed, the full magnitude of what they'd accomplished became clear. Not only had they saved the colony from immediate disaster, but they'd also discovered an entirely new ecosystem hidden beneath Titan's surface. The scientific community back on Earth was buzzing with excitement. But for Alex, Dr. Muller, and the rest of the team who'd faced the abyss and returned, the greatest victory was more personal. They'd faced the unknown and triumphed, not through individual heroics, but through cooperation, innovation, and the unyielding human spirit. As Alex stood at the viewport, gazing out at the transformed landscape of Titan, Chief Khan approached him. "You did good out there, White," she said, a rare smile on her face. "Your quick thinking saved a lot of lives." Alex shook his head. "It wasn't just me, Chief. It was all of us working together. That's the real strength of this colony." Khan nodded approvingly. "Well said. And that's why I'm recommending you for a promotion. We need more minds like yours as we continue to explore and adapt to this world." As Khan walked away, Alex turned back to the viewport. Titan stretched out before him, a world of mysteries still to be uncovered. They'd faced their trial by fire, or rather, by methane, and emerged stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew that the spirit of Titan colony would rise to meet them. In the depths of space, on the shores of methane seas beneath the gaze of Saturn, humanity had not just survived, they had thrived. And their journey was only beginning. 1 year later, the observation deck of Titan Colony's new research center offered a panoramic view of the transformed landscape. Where once there had been only ice and hidden secrets, now a vast methane plain stretched to the horizon, its surface a testament to human ingenuity and the raw power of Titan's geology. Dr. Ingrid Muller stood at the viewport, her wild gray hair as untamed as ever, a spark of excitement in her eyes as she addressed the assembled team. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice filled with barely contained enthusiasm. "What we've discovered in the past year is nothing short of revolutionary. The ecosystem we glimpsed in that underground sea, it's just the tip of the iceberg." She gestured to a holographic display, which sprang to life with images of bizarre life forms, part plant, part animal, all alien. These creatures have evolved to thrive in an environment we once thought was inhospitable to life. They use methane the way Earth organisms use water. The implications for our understanding of astrobiology are staggering. Alex White, now the deputy chief engineer of the colony, listened with rapt attention. The events of the previous year had changed him, molding him into a leader who balanced innovation with caution. "What about the cryovolcanic activity?" he asked. "Are we certain the measures we've put in place will prevent another incident?" Dr. Muller nodded appreciatively at the question. "Good thinking, Alex. Always looking ahead. We've implemented a network of sensors across the region, tied into an early warning system. We'll have ample notice of any future geological shifts." Chief Engineer Samira Khan stepped forward. "Moreover, we've adapted Dr. Muller's atmospheric regulator technology into a colony-wide system. We're not just surviving on Titan anymore. We're beginning to thrive here." There were nods of agreement around the room. The past year had seen Titan colony grow and evolve in ways none of them had anticipated. New habitation modules had been constructed, research outposts established, and plans were even underway for the first permanent settlement outside the main colony complex. "There's one more thing," Khan continued, her expression serious. "Earth Command has officially designated Titan Colony as the forward base for all future outer solar system exploration. We'll be coordinating missions to Enceladus, Europa, and beyond." A murmur of excitement rippled through the assembled team. This was more than just recognition of their achievements. It was a mandate to push even further into the unknown. As the meeting concluded and people began to file out, Alex remained at the viewport, lost in thought. Dr. Muller approached, standing beside him in companionable silence for a moment. "Penny for your thoughts?" she finally asked. Alex smiled. "I was just thinking about how far we've come. A year ago, we were fighting for survival. Now we're planning to explore worlds even further from home." Muller nodded sagely. "That's the human spirit for you. We face our challenges, learn from them, and then look for the next horizon to cross." "Do you ever wonder what else is out there?" Alex asked. "What other surprises the universe might have in store for us?" Muller's eyes twinkled with the same curiosity that had driven her all her life. "My dear boy, that's precisely why we're here. Every discovery, every challenge we overcome, brings us one step closer to understanding our place in the cosmos." As they stood there, gazing out at the alien landscape that had become their home, the first stars of Titan's night began to appear. Among them, barely visible to the naked eye, was a pale blue Earth, a reminder of where they had come from and all they had accomplished. But it was the darkness between the stars that drew Alex's gaze. In that vast unknown lay countless worlds waiting to be discovered, challenges to be overcome, and wonders beyond imagination. The trial of Titan had forged them into pioneers, explorers of the greatest frontier humanity had ever faced. And as the lights of the colony flickered to life behind them, illuminating the methane plains like a beacon of human perseverance, Alex White knew one thing with absolute certainty: their greatest adventures were still to come.